Hello, this is Cindy, your technician. I'm going to be demoing how to set up your file for your poster and also how to tile for printing. So with tiling, you can print on smaller pages, trim them down to the correct size, and then tape them together so that you have your larger poster size. I'm going to talk about file formats first. You'll be using InDesign to build your poster, and with InDesign we link in files. And so you can use Illustrator, Photoshop, TIFF, or JPEG files. Avoid using PNG or GIF files. These are files for the web and can cause printing problems. So stick to Illustrator files, Photoshop files, TIFF files, and JPEG files. Avoid PNG and GIF. If you need transparency, you can use Photoshop. So I'm just in Photoshop right now, and I'll talk a little bit about resolution. So I have my little panda here, red panda, and I just want to check the resolution for this file. So resolution indicates how many dots per inch you have. So the more dots per inch, the more rich the image looks when it prints. Or the fewer that you have, it will look pixelated. So for this one, I have a Photoshop file, that's my little red panda here, and I can just go to image, image size, and I can see that the resolution is 300. And I can look at my smaller image here, and I can see that the image size is, resolution is 72, and there's much fewer pixels to work with compared to my first one where I have lots and lots of pixels and a high resolution. So coming into InDesign, I'll set up my file and then I'll come back to the resolution stuff again. I'm just going to create new. And I know that my file size is 24 by 36 inches. So I'm just going to choose inches as my unit. So 24 by 36. It remembers what I did last time. My orientation is portrait. And I also want to put in a bleed so that I can bring images and color over to the edge, and I'll have a little wiggle room to slice off the very edges of those images, and it'll go all the way to the edge, because of course printers can't print all the way to the edge. They just don't have that capability. So if you want color or images all the way to your edge, you need a bleed. So I'm just going to click on bleed, and it remembers from last time what I put in for my bleed. So a good bleed is 0.215 inches, or 9 points, or 3 millimeters, or 0p9 in different units. So I'm just going to go create. And there's my poster. I can see I have a bleed with the little red line there. Scroll in a bit. You can see the red line. If I forgot to do that, I can go under File, Document Setup, and put my bleed in there. So if you're setting up your margins, you can go under Layout, Margins and Columns, and decide what you want your margins to be, and for setting up your grid, your number of columns. And as well, to create guides for your rows, you can come in here and choose your number of rows and fit guides to page. But I'll just leave that as is. So I'm going to bring in my two images. So File, Place, or Command D. We always do place. We never drag and drop images in, which embeds them. That can cause printing issues. So I'm going to grab my large image, my Photoshop file, click open, and I'll take it to the bleed. And there it is, and it's actually almost the correct size to go all the way across. And then I'm also going to place my smaller one, File Place or Command D. And oh, maybe I didn't quite click that right. Oh, actually, that's not the right one. All right, File, Place, so that one. There we go, that's the right one. File, Place, get the little one, and I'll just put it there. So you can see it's quite a bit smaller. If I want to make it bigger, I want to hold down Shift as I resize it so that the proportions remain the same. And if I hit Command as well, that allows both the frame and the image. I'm just going to undo that. The frame and the image to resize at the same time. So I'm just hitting Shift Command, and I'll make that a bit bigger. There we go. And you can actually see it looks a little bit pixelated because it is the smaller image. So what I want to show you is if you look at your Info panel, which is under Window, Info, and click on your image, you can see it tells you the actual PPI or pixels per inch, so 300, and the effective PPI, which is also 300 in this case because I haven't sized it larger or smaller. If I were to do that, so Shift Command, if I make it smaller, the effective PPI goes up. And if I make it larger, the effective PPI goes down. And with this smaller image, if I click on it, I can see that my effective PPI is 10. So we saw in Photoshop that the resolution was 72. But once I made it bigger, it actually went down all the way to 10. What you want when you're printing is for your effective PPI to be around 300, or between 200 and 300 is good. So this guy at 280 has an excellent effective PPI. This one is, the smaller one is going to print pixelated and look quite rough. So keep an eye on your effective PPI, and you may make some decisions about how you do your design based on the size of the image that you've taken if you're doing photos. Okay, so let's look at tiling this. So printing it tiled. So I'll save it first maybe. Would be a good idea. So I'm just going to call it demo and save. Great. So to print tiled, File, Print or Command P. Give it a second to think about that. So setup. For me, I have a printer that does letter sized. I don't have any legal paper. It could do legal, but I'll choose US letter for my setup. And then for marks and bleed, I do want my crop marks. And I do want to use my document bleed so that those crop marks show the bleed. Just going to scroll in a bit here. So again, crop marks, and then yes, use the document bleed settings. That's good. And then under hang on. Right, print setup tile. There it is, sorry. All right, and also on setup for tiling, let's scroll in again. At the bottom here, we have an option here for tile. I'm just going to click that. And auto is good. There's a couple other options here. But auto justified and manual don't usually work out very well. Manual is pretty tough to use. And then it gives you a bit of overlap. 1.5 inches is quite a bit, so I'm just going to dial that back to 1/2 inch. And you can even see in your preview here that it is going to tile that way. You can take a look at what it would look like if it was landscape tiling, but there you go. So now you can go ahead and print. So to review that, under setup, make sure you have the correct size of paper that you're using. Under marks and bleed, have your crop marks and use your document bleed settings. And also under setup, tile, auto, and then just change that overlap so it's a little bit less. Great. And then you can just click print. But I'm going to cancel. Printing from PDF also works out really well. So you can export to PDF, so that's File, Export, or Command E. Before you export, you want to make sure that your setup marks and bleed does have use document bleed settings checked, which it does. And I want to have my crop marks. So File, Export, or Command E, and save. Oh, there we go. So yes, under marks and bleed, I just want to make sure that I have my use document bleed settings and crop marks there, and then I can just click export. Great. So for printing from PDF, choose my PDF. There we go. All right, so here I am in Acrobat Pro, and this is my image. I can see I have my crop marks in the corner, so that worked. I just need to go File, Print. And I want to make sure that my page setup, again, is letter. If you have legal size paper, you could choose legal. And I'll just go OK. And I want it to be the actual size. So I'll just zoom in a bit here. So make sure it says actual size. You'll see in your preview that only a portion will be printable, but that's fine because then we're going to click on poster. And you want to choose cut marks so that it actually gives you little marks to show where to trim your poster, so where to align things and tape it all together. So make sure you choose cut marks. So to review, make sure your page setup, yes, is US letter. On this initial page under size, make sure you choose actual size, and then under poster, choose cut marks, and then you can print. All right, and just for your information, so you're not going to be tiling in Illustrator for this project because you're building your file in InDesign, and whether you print from InDesign or from PDF, those are your best choices. They kind of give you the best marks to show where to align the work, to tape it down and whatnot. So those are your best options. But you do have the option of printing tiled in Illustrator. So I'll just show you for your information how that works. So I go File, Print, and okay, so first I want to make sure that I have my trim marks and I'm using my document bleed settings. And then under General, under Scaling, so this is what it looks like normally. Under Scaling, it'll say Do Not Scale. You want to choose Tile Imageable Areas. And you want to have, or tile full pages, either way. With tile full pages, it does give you the option of doing an overlap, which is helpful for you to be able to tape things down. So actually I think tile full pages is your best option under scaling. Sorry, I'll zoom in a bit here. Scaling, tile full pages, put in your overlap, and then you can press print, and it'll print. You can trim it down, tape it together, and you'll have your full-size posters. Great. So I definitely recommend using InDesign or PDF for doing your tiling printing. And yeah, that's all I have. Thanks so much for watching and listening.